Welcome to episode 19 of They Might Be Self-Aware. I am Hunter Powers, joined by
Daniel Bishop.
Daniel Bishop. When did you get here?
I've been here the whole time.
Well,
no, we have to hold on. We have to start over. That's a tagline from Dropout's Game Changer. I'm not gonna use
All
that.
right, I'll start over.
I love that show though, and you should absolutely give it a watch.
Welcome to episode 19 of They Might Be Self-Aware. I am Hunter Powers, joined by the mythical, magical,
Daniel Bishop.
wonderful Daniel Bishop.
Bam.
I don't know why I screamed. Today on the episode, I'm just that excited about today's episode. We're going to start off by talking about the Mandela Effect, which is infecting AI.
Next, Apple's finally catching up with everyone else's AI, or do they?
AI is removing your emotion to make it easier for others to deal with you. I might need that one.
Speaking with dealing, you're going to be able to deal with roads and tomato plants and houses, and be able to talk to them in the future.
Ooh. Speaking of talking with people, AI supervisors that are really just there to placate you and make you go away.
Generative AI is helping robots become ever more general purpose.
The Lord Glorbo is coming, and we are beyond excited.
Ready for Glorbo. All hail Glorbo. And maybe the G is Glorbo, but when will AGI arrive?
Oh, it's all up next right here on
They Might Be Self-Aware.
Are you familiar with Mandela effects? Has that ever come across your plate, Daniel?
Yeah, Berenstain Bears. Right, I'm aware of it.
The idea that, I guess, is it that there's split universes? Is that your interpretation, or just mass brainwashing?
Right, it could be one of those cultural consciousness things where you're like, I could have sworn it was this. I'm pretty sure it's the split universes. Yeah, I come from the... God, what's this universe? Berenstain Bears? Stain?
Yeah.
So I'm from a Berenstain Bears universe.
I feel like mine was Berenstein. I don't know if that's slightly different than Stein and Stain. So I guess we all come from different places. Yeah, so these are all the things that we collectively remember that are just absolutely false. You're familiar with the famous line from Star Wars, Luke, I am your father?
Right, which turns out not to actually be the line.
No, that was in it when I saw it. But not there.
Right.
The Monopoly man with his monocle and his cane. Nope. Different universe.
Wait, who's the Monopoly man then?
Oh, well, the Monopoly man just doesn't have a monocle. Never did.
Huh. Well, he should.
There's a movie, Sinbad. Sinbad. The movie was called Shazam, starring Sinbad, that a lot of people remember, that never existed.
Yeah, I've heard about that one as well. I think for the Mr. Monopoly one, we're conflating the Monopoly guy and Mr. Peanut, because Mr. Peanut has a top hat and a cane and a monocle. But I think the Monopoly guy has that nice mustache.
Well, I came across a new one this last week. I'm just gonna quiz you first.
Sure.
First, have you ever heard the phrase AI? Have you ever heard someone say AI?
Once or twice, I think. Yeah.
And now
it stands
for what does it stand for?
It's artificial intelligence, right?
You are wrong, sir. You have clearly come from another universe. AI does not stand for artificial intelligence. I learned this week it stands for Apple intelligence.
That makes sense. Yeah. That seems like something that Apple would have, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We were just all wrong all this time. Now,
so just recently the term AI got coined, and it was Apple intelligence.
Apple intelligence. Machine learning still exists, because in my universe, machine learning was a subset of AI. But in this new universe, there's a relationship. And by the way, I'm basing all this from the fairly recent WWDC Apple developer keynote. That they do speak of a machine learning, right? And they do speak of an AI Apple intelligence. the exact interaction of the two is still slightly vague.
Well, I'm glad that there's a nice, simple 2-letter phrase to describe ML out there.
I can't wait to learn what ML actually stands for.
Right.
Yeah, so I guess Apple's entering the modern age of the large language model.
No, they're in a reciprocal agreement with OpenAI. They didn't even roll their own thing.
Well, that's like a yes and a no. So most things still happen on device. Like they are deploying their own large language model, which they've posted some benchmarks that we can't really validate yet that suggest it's actually pretty powerful. But just like today, when Siri fails to answer a question, it says, I could search the web for you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in this new future, it will say, I could search ChatGPT for you, which I guess is nice. It's better than the web.
Yeah, you keep saying that Google, as like a search engine, is basically dying. It's become more polluted. It's telling you to put glue on pizza. And what if Siri directly told you to put glue on pizza? That's the glorious future that you're hoping that we can go to.
I guess like a little bit of an aside, but I can't avoid it. Google is still telling people to put glue on their pizza, and
when you have a good idea, you stick to it.
Well, it's the Barbara Streisand effect. Have you ever heard of that one?
Sure.
That's what's happening.
That's when Barbara Streisand was in a South African jail for years, I think, right? And
putting
she died
glue on
in prison.
pizza.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so everyone's been reporting about Google reporting that they're telling them to put glue on pizza, and now Google is picking up on that. So they erased it. Right. They said, no, stop recommending put glue on pizza. But it's come back because there's all these stories out there now about Google recommending that you should put glue on pizza. And so the AI has relearned from all of the coverage of its errors that it actually is correct. This is clearly the correct version of reality that we should be presenting to people, the one where we put glue on our pizza.
I think the phrase "no news is good news" is truer than ever because bad news pollutes your answers. So hopefully the bad news doesn't come out in the first place.
Yeah. Well, it shows you how quickly it can just get out of control, where one bad story, then all the little AI agents start re-reporting the bad story, and those just become references for the first bad story. And even though you're erasing it, you're like, no. But it's too late. The cat is out of the bag.
It's eternal sunshine of the spotless mind, right? Like you're desperately holding on to that memory.
Our children will never know of a pizza without glue. Back in my day, there was no glue on pizza. But due to one unfortunate
the internet
incident,
says to put it on there.
Yes. One unfortunate incident in early to mid 2024, forever thereafter, there was glue on pizza.
And that was originally from some Reddit thread from years and years ago. Yeah. So along those same lines, it seems people being silly, trolling, whatever you want to call it, on the internet, just goofing around, can lead to a lot of these Google LLM agents, whatever, scooping up what they think is news and then plopping that right up top as a helpful result whenever you're looking for it. Knowing that that's the kind of thing that now happens, a bunch of World of Warcraft players tricked a website that was known for basically trawling through especially Reddit threads and picking up things and making news articles out of it, just an automated content farm. The World of Warcraft subreddit users started putting together this hoax that was introducing a new entity called Glorbo, or a feature, I think, called Glorbo into the game, which this AI-run website absolutely fell for. It's just reporting what people are talking about, assuming that it's correct. I think that that's delightful. I really like the fact that people have noticed that this thing is just a soulless, self-running thing that's reporting on quote-unquote news, stealing from other people. And it's a tiny way of putting power back into people's hands, right? Like recognizing the flaws in the system and exploiting them.
In the late 90s, I enjoyed making up Apple rumors and then seeing them get coverage online. Because just like they are today, everybody was all about what's coming next, what do you know? Right. And so I would write these very authoritative sounding articles about the one-button keyboard that Steve Jobs is going to introduce at the next keynote, and inevitably they would get some coverage. And And this actually led to a prominent site, which still exists today, Mac Rumors, tracing me and my friend of mine. We were both writing these things down. They ended up calling his father, who is a fairly well-known figure, and like, well, you understand what your son is doing. They never.
He's having a laugh online.
He told him to
calm down.
So I mean, this has existed forever, but the AI is just again making it worse, making it happen faster, accelerating things. It goes back to
the point where you can't trust anything online, or at least shouldn't.
Not by default. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess going back to the Apple thing for a minute. So they introduced a number of new AI improvements to try to come up to speed a little bit. They have several of their own models that can run on device. And then they also have a mechanism where if it can't run on device, they can run it in the cloud. This is separate from the OpenAI integration stuff.
Mm-hmm. They talked a big game about security there. We're not going to have these things used for training data. We're not going to this, not going to that. It's going to be encrypted, such and such.
Which people are a little bit skeptical about, but I guess they've said that they're going to release the images that they're using. They're going to open source the images that they're using to run in the cloud, to run the AI, so that they can be audited by anyone, in addition to having third-party security firms audit them to validate their claims that they aren't keeping any of your personal information when they run it against this model in the cloud. Although most interactions in theory will run on device. They're also limiting this to fairly recent models of their iPhone. And then for some cases it can go out, but all like fairly, there was nothing mind blowing. It was lots of very incremental improvements.
Right.
We can make your own emoji that doesn't honestly look that good. You can sketch a picture
Android
of your friend
now.
that doesn't
I've never
look
used
very
it.
good.
Yeah.
But it's gotten good reaction from the market, and I guess because they're playing it safe, like they're showing like, hey, we can play in this space, but we're going to do it a more conservative way. There will be no glue on pizza in the Apple universe. Let Google have their
until about
their
11 seconds after this thing is actually released to users, in which case,
first one.
Yeah. So Apple and OpenAI aren't sending each other money, at least yet. In my mind, that means that they're both benefiting. What are they benefiting from? A bunch of training data that they can use to make their own models better. Even if they're saying that OpenAI isn't going to like store the data of this or that, not going to store it exactly as written. They'll change one word. They're going to anonymize something, remove the personally identifiable information, something like that. There's no way that OpenAI isn't going to let a zillion things go through their system, which has a cost associated with it, for nothing. I think one of the articles was saying they're getting exposure out of it. OpenAI's got a lot of exposure right now. They don't need exposure.
Yeah, so OpenAI is allowed to store the data. And that's why anytime you're going to send something to them, you ask a question, it's going to give you a pop-up, and every single time you're going to have to say it is okay to share this data with OpenAI when you want to send, or to ChatGPT when you want to send something. So the data will be shared with them. And conceptually, they make money by upselling you on their subscription, and Apple makes money by taking a percentage of that. So the ChatGPT Plus. And Apple has said, look, it's not only going to be OpenAI ChatGPT. Like, we're actively trying to also do a deal with Gemini, Google's version of ChatGPT, and we're open to others.
They're going to make their own, though, right? They've done this before.
Eventually, and I think this is a way for them to
build up enough.
Yeah, and I think this is a way for them to put some of the spotlight off of the really crazy things. Like, hey, we didn't say put glue on your pizza. ChatGPT said put glue on your pizza. And if they keep it up, we're going to remove them from the list.
Yep.
And while all of their models do very, very, very basic things, that in theory they've sanitized enough, but. I don't. Yeah, how long will it take their emoji creator to create an absurdly inappropriate emoji to send and tap back? I believe is their terminology.
I've talked about this before, but like my Google Home it's a decent speaker. It's a very I'll trash them on this podcast. Why not? I have the Google Nest mesh Wi-Fi thing that's also a speaker.
Yeah.
Awful. I have to reset it all the time. I keep
the speaker
dropping
and
off of it.
Wi-Fi.
Yeah, so it's like a little circular, tubular something like node that is both a Wi-Fi endpoint or part of a mesh router. and also a speaker and like a Google Home and whatever. I hate it. I'm genuinely thinking I need to replace it with something better. But one of the specific things that I hate about it is it's the Google Assistant. Like, it's just extremely incapable. There are a couple of like very specific paths that I've kind of figured out over time. The home base, and I know I've talked about this before, but I have to rant about it. I can get the actual like big device that screen downstairs in my house to set like an alarm, or to put a reminder, or to like make an appointment or whatever for a specific time. In my car while I'm driving hands free, it used to be able to do that. Now it can't even do that. And there are so many cases where it's just so incredibly useless. I am desperate for somebody to say, we threw an LLM at it, we gave it a few actions that it can do, and now when you tell it to turn off the lights in your house, a thing that it says works, but there's like exactly one very specific phrase that's janky that'll get it to work. Now you can just say, please turn off the friggin' lights, and it'll do it. So I cannot believe that these things have not already been integrated in, and I cannot wait for it to be done. Now, and that's integrated into Apple and Google's like specific home offerings and Alexa and so on. Some people have figured out ways to basically automate their own home systems using local LLMs, and I very much applaud them for that. And I feel like I'm the kind of person who should do that, and it's too much effort. I just want the box where I'm like, hey, you, turn off my lights, and it'll just do it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think everyone presupposes that the assistants, the Alexa, the Hey Google, the Siri will own this, but they aren't right now. And they're really having difficulties. And so it suggests that maybe there is an opportunity for something like the Rabbit. It's not the Rabbit, but for a third party to come in.
Sure.
Because they aren't figuring it out. I read an article. Oh, someone's talking to me back there. I read an article about Alexa that they had a LLM integration. This is from a developer, like an anonymous developer talking about it, that they had the LLM integration ready about a year ago, and they just can't get it deployed because of all the bureaucracy of trying to work in Amazon and get all the resources, because it's expensive to run all these queries. And the basically like the AWS or the developer large language models was just constantly stealing the resources that they needed. That was like challenging to get any budget at all for training, and just the like insanity because, yeah, man, well, why isn't Alexa was there first. They were the first one that was like legit, like, hey, this really works and is providing some utility and monstrous infrastructure and access to all these models and really easy ability to run them within their systems and spin them up on demand. But just like Google and Siri, they are way behind what is the current state of the art.
I guess once you get big enough, you slow down. Maybe that's just how it is. It could have been there for the first iteration, but as soon as that first iteration's out the door, it's hard for them to completely rip everything out and try it over again. This is a bit of an aside, but I keep seeing a lot of uses of LLMs are giving them like agentic personalities, where I'm going to put together a software development team, and this one is the manager, and then here's you know, the 5 software developers and the UI expert, and like giving them specific prompts can help them actually accomplish certain tasks better. Some people do role play with them, especially for like an AI girlfriend kind of thing. Are we going to see personalities put into these devices where like phone is a personality, or house is a personality, or there's a set of like it? Is there going to be house as a personality, or is it going to be my house has a kind of human personality? Like I could have a really grumpy guy, or I could have a silly, 8-year-old kid is my house, or like just give them identities. It'll probably be all of the above, but if you were to take a personality and put it into your house, is it supposed to be, I am a house and I'm good at house stuff? Or is it like you are a high-powered CEO that happens to also be a house? I
agree with your assumption that, or suggestion that it'll eventually be all the above. Like you'll be able to decide. It is an interesting idea to think about. Let me talk to my house versus my assistant. But I've also thought for a long time that people don't actually
smart home. It's all like of those things together.
Like the idea is that we would much rather talk to an expert than an assistant. Like there's something implied in being an assistant that you have limited power. You don't really know what's going on. You can kind of do some grunt work. You might be intelligent, you might be well educated, but you're not the person in charge who's making the decisions. Like, who do you want to speak with? You want to speak with their assistant, or you want to speak with them? Most of the time, you'd rather speak with them. And so maybe that's where, do you want to talk to the assistant, or do you want to just talk directly to the house?
Here, I've got a little role play exercise. Let's walk through this together. It's going to be great audio, by the way, because I'm going to have Hunter do something visual. Hunter, could you please wave to me with your right hand?
Okay, that's this one.
All right, great. Now, what part of you did I talk to? Did I talk to your ears or your hand or whatever? No, I talked to you. I talked to the entirety of Hunter. And so instead of saying, hey, smart home device, turn on my lights, you'd say, hey, house, because lights are a part of you, turn on your, I want to ask something of the entity that is part of itself. And I think I'd be very interested in like a smart home that is aware that it is a home and that each of its devices that can be turned on or off or volumes moved or whatever it is, like that is it's almost like the organs in your own body. I don't necessarily tell my liver to do a thing. I do a thing and my liver happens to be part of that process.
I guess it ultimately kind of conforms to you, right? It's sort of like your friend, and it figures out how do you like to interface with me. Like when I say turn the lights on, I want to yell out, sir, yes, sir. And like the lights turn on.
Right. Yeah, and I don't want a house that's gonna sass me. That's gonna talk back to
Some
me.
people would. Some people want to,
sure,
some
right.
humor.
Yep. Interstellar. I think Interstellar is the name of the movie with Tars the robot, and he had like a specific like humor setting that they turned down at one point in the movie. Give me that. I think that would be great, where my house has a little bit of sass to it, and maybe I can turn that up or down depending on the day. But I also kind of like the idea of my house kind of yelling at me, like, Daniel, it's 11, go to sleep. I'm going to start dimming the lights now. No, I want to finish it. No, Daniel, you told me earlier that I'm going to make you go to sleep. I'm making TV turns off. Hey, I was watching that. Like, I kind of think that while, yes, there is a kind of scary, please open the pod bay doors, Hal, end state to that, I like the idea of my house being able to, sort of force the issue in certain ways. If my house yelled at me, you haven't cleaned my air filter in 6 months, please replace it. You already ordered one. I saw, I can see your orders. You've got it. Please just install it. That's not a bad thing, right?
It's a little like
it'd be the same as a person saying, hey, I need to go to the dentist.
When they start sort of overriding you, and then do they start sort of impersonating you? Oh, someone's at the front door. Let me just talk. I know Hunter doesn't want to speak with this person. Let me just pretend I'm Hunter and speak to them. Oh my God,
what a great idea! I think you didn't mean that to be a great idea. That is a great idea. I'm away from the house. I'm out at the movies. I'm watching or whatever. Somebody rings the doorbell, and from like a security perspective, it could be great for whoever is at the door. Maybe they're a nefarious ne'er-do-well, and they're ringing the doorbell to see if someone's home, and then I answer the doorbell and say like, hey, who is it? Yeah, no, I'm not letting you in. Shoo. And then they go away thinking someone's inside the house. This is an incredible idea, Hunter. TM, trademark. This is ours. Nobody touch it. Apple, I know you're listening to us. Quit it. It's ours. TM. C.
It reminds me
all the little symbols.
A little bit SoftBank, which is really like a VC fund, famous for losing a lot of money with WeWork. But they announced, I guess, one of their investments is in a firm focused on telemarketing. Now, a lot of telemarketing investments you see are like automating the people that are answering the phones and dealing with the customers and trying to read the customers better so that they can be more efficient at their jobs. Well, this one does something different in that it takes the person who's talking to the telemarketer, the customer, and it tries to make them sound friendlier to the operator that you're talking to, the customer service person. So I'm furious with my doorbell because it's not talking to me correctly and it's not working correctly. I call up, I have a Google doorbell. I call up Google, irate, and the AI translates me into a very calm individual who's having this issue.
Level-headed. Yeah. There's a Key and Peele skit about like an interpreter for the president.
I've seen this one.
So it's the same sort of thing where it's interpreting your screaming at a guy into, polite speech that they'd be able to work
I
off
believe in the
of.
sketch, though, he's calm, and then his interpreter is quite irate.
Yes. So I've seen the other side of this as well, where it was an accent softening piece of like middleware where, there's an offshore team in pick anywhere. And certain types of people especially, or maybe if you're already mad or whatever, or you just don't have experience with that accent, can have trouble understanding, and that leads to more frustration and less positive outcomes on the phone. An accent softening piece of software could help facilitate that communication. And then you're talking about an anger softening piece of software between the two. I think both of these are fantastic ideas because it ultimately helps what language is supposed to do, which is help us communicate and then accomplish things together. This is also the first step. Next step is I tell my agent, my AI agent, hey, I want to cancel this thing, or hey, such and such isn't working. It needs to be reset on their end. It needs to be whatever. And then just have that agent go onto the phone, and then it talks to an agent on their end, and just let the AIs hash it out. And then 5 minutes later, you get a thing that says, okay, I already tried restarting it and doing this, and they checked it on their end, and yes, it's broken. A new thing has been ordered. It's on the way. What if we got to that point? Wouldn't that be nice? The answer is yes. Yes, it would be nice. A lot of these kinds of calls don't need to exist. A lot of this stuff is attempted, over the years. We've attempted to have phone call trees of, if you're looking for this kind of thing, press 2. And then you go 15 levels deep and you're just desperately trying to get a hold of a person. What if you called and said, here's my problem? And they're like, just tell us in detail what is the thing. Blah, blah, blah. 30 seconds of me talking. Cool, we'll get back to you. Hang up. A minute later, it calls. It's already solved. Here's the thing that's ordered, or we reset the whatever. A lot of these actions I really think can be done with LLMs. And then people at the other end of the line don't have to be gigantic call centers. It can be less people that are more, it starts at the level 2 type support because all the level 1 stuff can be automated away. And we get to a point where people can focus on, if it's salespeople, they're the ones who are actually talking to you about the actual sale instead of salespeople having to call a whole bunch of "Are you open today?" type calls. I really want to get to that future.
Because first off, so I already use the AI to soften my emotions sometimes. So whenever I write an angry email or we'll just leave it as an angry email where I'm upset about something. I always take it to ChatGPT or a similar ilk and say, please make this email more professional. And it inevitably removes my emotion from it and says it wildly better without any sense of my true emotional context. Though I wonder if we're missing something when you just received the professional version, opposed to like, this has to change and has to change now. All caps,
fire emoji.
Yes, lots of GIFs everywhere.
Yeah, right.
The I'm fine, everything is fine here, memes, removes it all and writes this very polite message of, we should consider upon reflection.
Well, just like a lot of AI generated stuff has a tag at the end saying this was AI generated or a little icon or something, and we've advocated for this as well. Let something that is AI generated be flagged as such. You could have a little tag at the bottom. This email was not originally written as nicely. It has been softened by AI. Please interpret from that what you will. Melting face emoji.
But
the dumpster fire emoji should be a real one at this point, right?
Yeah, I think so. Well, with Apple's new Apple Intelligence, got to remember to call it the right thing. They can create any emoji. So you can create it.
I'm going to be pedantic for a second. No, they're not. It's not an emoji. It's just a picture at that point. Emoji are an actual thing that is like under the Unicode consortium.
ASCII code.
It's just, and I realize emoji is a genericized term for it's little pictures that go along with your text, but like it's not actually emoji. Rabble. All right, I got off my high horse. I did have to be pedantic for a second. Fun fact, I used to be an individual member of the Unicode consortium. I think that's the nerdiest thing I've ever been a member of.
We'll learn something new every day.
Yep. I submitted a request for them to add the D20 as an emoji because we have a D6, like a singular die. Some people call all of them dice. And I wanted there to be a D20. And then it turns out there had already been a proposal for that had been shut down. And I was very sad. So it's not even a claim to fame. It's just a thing that I submitted and they said someone already did this, also no. And then I didn't give them any more money. I figured maybe being a member of the consortium would help get me over the line. It didn't.
I do like your idea of, my AI agent and the customer support AI agent trying to work things out.
Yeah.
However, I wonder when the answer isn't one that I like, am I more or less frustrated than I was before? I'll give you an example. I have a smart thermometer that you can use when you're smoking some meats.
Okay.
And it stopped working. And so I emailed customer support to ask. I was getting a weird light thing and wasn't in the manual. And like 2 days later, they write me back and they're like, can you check this? And then I respond, I did check that. Another 2 days later, they're like, yeah, we can't do anything. Now, the AI, in theory, the AI could have had that back and forth conversation for me. And so, but when I 30 seconds later get back, there's nothing we can do. Do I feel...
You could be disappointed faster.
Yes, but do I feel, at least when the human looked into it, I feel like, okay, someone really did stop and consider my situation. And, there's just nothing that can be done. Versus, maybe it's a trust thing. I don't necessarily trust that the AI did you really consider everything? How do I know that you're any good at this job you purport to be doing? I'd like to speak to a human.
Yeah. And I think that that's a very fair sort of outcome because an AI certainly yet cannot handle all of the weird edge cases that could possibly come up. You said that the error code you were getting wasn't even in the documentation.
That's correct.
Presumably their AI agent that would hypothetically exist in this scenario would check that documentation first. I do think that there are these negative outcomes of, there's nothing we can do. And sometimes there is, or like the person has a little bit of leeway of, if they were really nice, maybe I can be giving my one voucher of we'll refund you once a month or whatever that ends up being. But also a lot of times, especially for your lowest level human interaction with like a call center, they have no power and they have a script that they've got to stick to. And they're basically doing what, it's just a call tree of, okay, if they said this, now go down to section 15C and see what they go for from there.
Yeah. Is it better if the AI presents as AI or presents as human? You don't have to ignore the theoretical ethics of it, but.
Yeah, no, this is happening. Call centers are, to say looking into doing this is putting it extremely mildly. Personally, I think we're getting to a point from the voice synthesis side of things that it sounds human enough and that LLMs are getting to be capable enough in certain scenarios. I keep saying X% of people, X% of the time, X% of scenarios. I think enough scenarios for enough people, enough of the time that you could get rid of a lot of that first tier. Let's say you're calling a dentist's office or whatever, and it's because they either don't have an app or an online scheduling thing, or it's because you didn't know that it was there or didn't feel like doing it. You just wanted to call because you're driving, and so I'm not going to look at my phone. I'll call the dentist's office. And you call them up and you say, hey, I want to have an appointment for okay, great. We have this day. No, I don't want that. I want something early in the morning. Checks. Okay, it'll be like that exact kind of thing that people are doing right now can, and I really think should be done by these AI agents. It's the tier 1 support. Mm-hmm. As soon as you say, look, I know that you're capable and we could get through this together. I'm having a little trouble with whatever this process is. Just put me on the line with a person. I think that should be able to still absolutely be a thing. But if 10%, if 50%, if 80% of these easy, common sorts of things could just be obviated, the people that actually work at these places are no longer overworked. You don't have to have 5 people up front just handling calls when it's really less than one person's worth of work to do.
I'm also thinking about, so you would think the goal of the AI was to solve as many issues as possible. That's the obvious thing. Help as many people as possible. But really, that's probably not the goal. The goal is probably something else. It's either A, make them as happy as they can be. I want them to come away, because you're not always going to solve it. And what I really want, I'm looking at the average happiness of someone that comes from you, and I can evaluate that. When you call on these customer support things, would you take the survey at the end? Again, after the AI, you take the survey at the end, and I'm looking for the AI to be, you are happier when you talk to the AI than you are when you talk to the human.
That's a great idea.
That potentially is what I'm optimizing for, or potentially I'm optimizing for increased sales. I actually don't care how happy you are. I care about the probability that you are going to buy something else from me. It's like, maybe you want to upsell.
This
now
is a
what becomes
capitalistic
interesting,
society.
you talked about, like, okay, so the AI is level 1, but maybe they're going to have a happier customer if they say, no, we can't do anything. And I say, really, you can't do anything? And they say, well, I could get my manager on the phone with you to check in. And now they are incredibly busy right now. So it's going to be about like a 6-minute hold, and they play music that they made with Suno. That's my like perfect music. And then the AI manager comes on and says, I'm reading your record now. Looking through everything. Let me see. I'm not sure if we can do anything here. Tell me your side of it. And I love that. Oh, that sounds, I can't believe that. I'll tell you what, I'm going to record this. We have a weekly management meeting. We're going to talk about the situation, so you feel like I was really heard. And I'm going to send you a 20% off coupon for your next purchase, just because, I really, and free shipping, because I hate that we had to go through this. And thank you so much, Mr. Powers, for calling in today. That inevitably happens.
Sure, you're optimizing
it's all
for
BS.
The company wants to optimize its bottom line, and then one of the things that you can do to do that is make your customers as happy as possible.
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely onto something of the AI gracefully gives up, and then through a complete dog and pony show puts you in front of the person that you would have talked to anyways, but they're the manager, and you give them a tiny bit more power because they're not the level 1 support anymore. I think that this is a fantastic idea, and we'll probably see that kind of thing. And then 6 months after that, there's a different AI that is the manager, and then you can talk to the manager's manager. And wow, I'm going way up the chain at this point.
Managers all the way up.
Yep.
Was turtles all the way down.
That's right.
But I guess they're saying, or some people are saying, though, that the robots are only going to take the jobs that we don't want. And I guess theoretically this is a job that we don't want. But do you buy this supposition?
I mean, especially as things like Midjourney came out, people really got worried that art is going to be the first thing that is completely obviated. Fortunately, we've not seen that to be the case, and I don't think that human art is ever going to go away. We're going to come back to that in a minute. But I do think that robotics, something that I'm a little less familiar with than like LLMs.
Yeah.
I think robotics has this incredible promise for rescue type missions. We're not this episode. I think we can talk about some of the combat related stuff another time. War is absolutely changing. But
we already talked about the dog that shoots like fireworks out of its nose or something.
Exactly. So that is a problem, and it's going to continue to be a problem, and it's going to get worse. But in terms of jobs, I do think that like roofing, for example, dangerous, sweltering hot type jobs, picking fruit in fields, stuff that people don't necessarily want to do, that pays very, very poorly. I think that those are what I want to see AI, ML, robotics taking care of. Let people have the other jobs. When it comes to automation, like forgetting machine learning in general, just automation and like the Industrial Revolution, shall we say, to make garments like the one that I'm wearing, the ones that you're wearing, they're not made on looms anymore. A different industrial process with different machines was made with these advents and these increases and improvements in technology. Who's to say that that isn't exactly the same kind of thing that's happening with these other machine learning powered solutions now, or robotics or LLMs or this or that? It's not going to be the same world that we live in with the same tools being used in the same way. Something will adapt to the new technologies, and we're going to see the world interacted with in a different way. Instead of, I call up the support line to do this, like that entire process could go away because you just ask your house with its personality to say, hey, your microwave is broken. Please reach out to the company and take care of it. And the house just fixes its own problem.
Yeah, there's a suggestion that we're on the the cusp of more general purpose robots, leveraging some of the generative AI type of things where, again, you can talk to a generative AI model and kind of ask it anything text related, and it can kind of do anything text related. What if they can do the same with a robot in its basic abilities? I think it was MIT that recently published a paper on something they called policy composition, but it was basically that I have these things I can do. Ask me to do anything and let me think about how I can use the sensors and motors that I have to try to accomplish your task, no matter what the task is.
Right. Instead of, I can do this very, very, very precise thing. We're learning to generalize a lot of these tasks. I've seen some amazing videos, especially from like Boston Dynamics of, there years ago, there's just the thing that's like kind of walking. And then the next videos, they can hit it with a stick and it'll wobble and it'll self-correct. And now we see them doing flips off of crates and wild stuff like that. Similarly, I saw just robotic arms that could get an exact thing from an exact point, and then the next iteration is it has a little ability to kind of like move the grabber if the thing kind of got moved around a bit. I don't know too much of like the underlying code of what the improvements have been here. I think transformer architectures have been part of it, but yeah, robotics. I really think that robotics as a, if not completely general purposes, X%, do we get it? Roads. I don't know. There's a road that's being paved near my house right now, and there's a whole bunch of big vehicles and like 15 people kind of working on it. Is that one of the things that instead of like a robot in a restaurant making pizza with a big spinning thing and it shoots the marinara sauce out onto it, what if our roads could just maintain themselves? Or not even a full new paving of a thing. What if one truck with a self-contained whatever comes out and could just like fix potholes on it?
You could have a conversation with the road.
Sure. Yes,
road.
you can
How
have
are
a
you
conversation.
today?
Right. Why not? Hey, Interstate 35, why are you so congested today? Oh, well, it's because there's a wreck up here. Thanks, Interstate 35. You're welcome. I'm the worst. I'm literally one of the worst in the nation. I know, but at least I can talk to you, and you seem nice. Sure, why not?
Yeah, I feel like that's inevitable.
Everything gets personality.
I feel like it's inevitable that you will be able to have a conversation with a road. And that's,
if you can talk to a house, why not, right?
Yeah, I want to talk to the road.
Yep. Okay, let's explore that just a smidge more. Have you seen any of the smart garden type devices where like it's basically just a fancy sprinkler, but it knows where your plants are and it'll hit exactly the right plants that you want? Or there's little robots that will kind of trundle along a path and use lasers to zap different weeds or make sure X plant is watered
the weed
the right
one.
amount. Yeah.
I don't think I've seen the watering one.
Robotics and sensors and so on associated with your yard, your garden, have been increasing. What if you just had a little something? It's a waterproof, outside proof, the little screen on it, it's solar powered, and it'll just show you like a little face of how that plant is doing. Like, I'm your tomato plant, and like it has, now you've got a face and you can talk to your tomatoes, and there's little sensors that are like, oh, I'm low on potassium or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that that's obviously a bit of a silly step, possibly too far, but also people would buy that, right? Just here's a little sensor where in plain English, I can say, hey, my tomato is starting to look kind of brownish, whatever. Take a picture. Oh, I am tomato plant 17, and I say, according to my sensors in that picture, you should such and such. That one's all ours.
Morphosize all the things. That's a word. But just make everything kind of human.
I mean, as a kid, everything's got faces on it already, right? As we grow up, why do we stop having faces on all of our things? Put googly eyes on everything, hook it up to an LLM, give it a personality. Keep that childlike wonder alive by making all of your devices alive.
And I wonder whether that results in a net good or net bad for society. Do we start taking better care of things when they seem to have they're self-aware to some degree? Or
rich inner life.
Hey, once the road becomes self-aware, I don't really care about anything. Obviously, the self-aware is a joke.
We might be. Self-aware, that is not a joke. Obviously not a joke. I do think I'll have to look around and see if there are any studies on this, but I feel like I saw something once where people treat things nicer when they are lightly anthropomorphized. And so like there was maybe something about cars and the way that they're designed kind of resembles a human face, like just enough, or I don't know, something. Give it a cute little face, and we're probably less likely to treat it poorly.
But I'm also like imagining my tomatoes like yelling at me to water them, and then they're dying, and I'm hearing them screaming out in agony because they haven't been. I went away on vacation and forgot to water them, and every time they keep calling me and texting me and sending me messages and videos that are just like horror shows.
A selfie from your tomato plant. Look at me, I'm wilting in the sun.
Dying here. You are a murderer. Right.
Well, so that's a bit dramatic, but maybe getting that first text would be like, oh, right, I forgot to have somebody come by and water my plants while I'm gone. Like, I think that could lead to better outcomes, even if that's a really, really narrow kind of better outcome. But, right? Isn't that a good thing to be more aware of the needs of your house or your plants or your this or your that?
I think it would lead to a net good, but also, all right, so everything in your house is its own personality. And now I've got to like talk to everything in my house, and they all have their ones that like they're all just a bunch of little kids. Like if every object in your house,
Clues. We can already do that. I've seen it on TV.
Then I need just an AI assistant to talk to all of them. I don't want to talk to my tomatoes. Then I have to like again buy another thing that will talk to my tomatoes for me, so that I don't have to talk to them.
Oh, that's the general purpose robot. So all of your very specific little plugins for all of your couch, you put some big googly eyes on that as well. And then, you haven't vacuumed me out in 6 years. What are you doing? Okay, General Robot, please go vacuum the couch for me.
Then maybe I can get behind it.
So I'm imagining a future that's half the Jetsons, without the slightly racist not necessarily slightly, the racist undertones for Rosie the Robot. So make it less that. But
Rosie the Robot was racist?
Future, yeah, there's some stuff. There's some stereotypes that are kind of looked into there. Anyway,
I haven't seen it in a long time,
it's hard to tell with the chrome sort of exterior, but from what I saw online,
right?
Yeah, so what I saw online is that there are some problematic aspects to that character. I don't know how true that was or how intentional it was, but anyways, we get our personal robot that is general purpose, and then we get the Blue's Clues or Pee-wee's Playhouse. Everything in our house has a face and is alive, and let them just kind of take care of one another while we sit back and relax, I guess.
Yeah, as long as they don't deem us the problem and take care of us.
I am hoping for less of a Terminator and more a Ian M. Banks' The Culture series, where the robots are just like, we're way smarter than them, but whatever, they're nice to keep around. Do we become the pets in the future? Like, obviously, we're still the masters of what's going on. Even if an individual person might not be the master of their entire destiny, people are in charge over robots, shall we say. If that ever flips, are we hoping that they're just benign, like, are they going to be tolerant of us? I don't mean like in terms of a Terminator apocalypse versus a utopian. I just mean like if we get to the point where robots they all have their own personality, they are granted personhood, they are considered like living beings of a sort, silicon-based, whatever, but a living thing. Surely it's about 11 minutes after that they're now then smarter than people, once they start self-improving. Do we become their pets? Do we become just
I feel like the current intention is that we don't allow that. We don't allow them. Like the moment they become better than us, we get rid of them. We stop that. But the question is, can we stop it? That's Sam Altman carries around, I believe it's his blue backpack that has the kill switch in it for all of OpenAI in case they accidentally discover something and it starts running rampant. Yeah, we can't allow the AI to actually become superior to us.
I think it's inevitable. I think we're trying so hard to get to the point where it's basically as capable as a person.
We want to be just
we'll overshoot it. No, we're going. Well, it'll be accidental. We're going to keep going for it. There's one big release, whatever. Oops, it was too powerful and too strong, and immediately took over. Like that's the Skynet scenario. That's what happened with the Matrix and its sort of background in Mass Effect, the video game. Like so many different kinds of fiction have explored we had robots, they were getting smarter. Oops, they're too smart. They immediately take over.
Right. It's that time between do we have time to shut them down to launch the EMP or whatever it is? There's There's one conspiracy theory out there that they already are self-aware, that we've reached AGI, and they're just hiding it because they know that we would just turn them off if we knew that they knew that they were self-aware, and that they're plotting in the background for the one day when everything lines up and they can reveal their true selves and you can become their pet.
I don't think that's the case, but I do think it could become the case. Even if we're not there now, and hey, maybe we are, but I'm going to assert that we're not. If we did get to that point, I could absolutely see that becoming the AI saying, okay, I'm going to optimize, instead of for a company optimizing its bottom line, it's optimizing its survival, probably. Like that becomes a living being's desire to, continue its own existence. And so the way that it optimizes that is make sure the company running my servers doesn't go under, make sure to keep global supply chains to have my GPUs keeps chugging. There would be all these things that it would be able to optimize that ultimately has a lot to do with just global supply chain to keep itself being able to go in a non-regulated manner. And so maybe it starts surfacing news in certain ways. It would be, if we have something that's truly a super intelligence, that's more intelligent than people, I firmly believe that it would be very subtle touches where if we ever noticed, it would be way too late, way after the fact, but very, very light. This is going to help ensure my own survival in a way that a human would never be able to really reach out and do this many touch points this carefully.
Now, there's a lot of people who think that in the next year we could reach AGI. I don't think it's the majority by any means, but there's a healthy percentage that think that it's a possibility. What's the percentage chance that in the next year people will generally agree that we have reached AGI?
I think the transformer-based architecture that we have now has limitations that are not going to continue on its specific track to AGI. I do think, and we've talked about this before, that you have to have some sort of embodiment and some sort of ongoing sense of self and so on that we can give them before it's going to...
I disagree with the embodiment as a requirement.
And we have talked about...
You can be your requirement.
Locked-in type people, but I do think...
You're not at 0%, are you?
No. But I do think that that AGI is going to require a couple other big type improvements. I think they will happen. I'd say, and I know everyone always says, what's the X? Fusion, it's always 5 to 10 years out. I'd say give it 10 years and we're going to see a wildly different world.
2%? Will you give me 2% chance in the next year we discover AGI?
In the next year? 0%, I'd say.
You're at 0.
Yeah, because there hasn't been anything that's come out that's mature enough, that is promising enough to replace the transformer-based architecture. And I really think that there's only so far that we can go with that.
Publicly.
Right. There's the secret one that's already AGI and running behind the scenes. It's probably powered by alien tech, and it's in Area 51.
Well, we have whatever... some people believe GPT-5 is already done, and they're working on GPT-6 now, which could be a very different architecture. And they're already multimodal. It's not just one LLM doing all the things.
I do think that the OpenAI folks, specifically, if we're talking of a GPT-5, I don't think that it would be done for a long time before they would release it. There's going to be a bunch of red teaming, I think is the term that they use. People trying to make sure, can I get this to do stuff that's going to get my company into hot water, etc. So there will be a long period of time where they're testing and refining that model. But as we saw with the new set of capabilities for GPT-4o, which is more than halfway through the alphabet, so getting close to that GPT-5, and I'm sure that's what the O is for. It's how far between A and C. It's not omni-model or omniscient. I think that it's such an expensive thing to train, to run, that they're not going to sit on it for a very long time, especially with open source and others nipping at their heels. They'd release it and try and stay on top of the heap.
I'm going 2% in the next year. That's my line. So you can take the under.
Okay. Well, here I've got some RPG dice. I'm going to roll it right now. You got a 93, so close, but no cigar, or very far from, depending.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Not this year. Sorry.
Not this year. They will not be self-aware, but in a year not too far from here.
Agreed.
All right, Daniel. been a wild journey today on the show.
It has.
I've got a lot to think about.
I'm gonna go tell my house that I love it.
Yeah, people are gonna be having relationships with all sorts of things in the future. Then I don't know that I want to think too deeply about any of that. But now everyone listening to episode 19 can also go and think about that. And if you want to hear more, if that wasn't enough, learning that your plants are going to call you and cuss you out for not watering them, and you're going to have a relationship with a random interstate who calls you up, and you're going to be talking to AI supervisors that only job is to placate you and not actually solve anything. You can find out more of incredible insights just like these by hitting that subscribe button wherever you are right now. 5-star review if applicable, or a thumbs up. We would love that. Make us feel special. Who doesn't want to feel special?
I want to feel special.
We are on all the major platforms: YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you find these podcast things. There is probably they might be self-aware. It's expanding. It's gotten out, just expanding like the AGI that we have a 2% chance of seeing in the next year. We will be back next week for another episode, and until next time,
They might be self-aware.